Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Steven Universe Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episodes 119 and 120 of Steven Universe, Rocknaldo and Tiger Philanthropist. Yeah, we got another Ronaldo episode, like I promised last week. And yeah, my opinions aren't exactly high on this one either. Basically, what goes on in this episode is that Steven is kind of what happens in the Rocknaldo episode is that after Steven's kind of gotten back on Earth and is kind of adjusted back to normalcy, so to speak, he ends up running into Ronaldo as he hands out a bunch of pamphlets, or Renolflets as he calls them, about various threats around Beach City that people need to be on the lookout for. And Steven, being Steven, he decides to take him up on this as he takes a pamphlet and goes to study it. The only problem is that the pamphlet warns people against rock people, i.e. gems. As such, once Steven realizes what it's about, he confronts Ronaldo about it, and Ronaldo at first tries denying it. It's like, no, the crystal gems defend us from rock people. They aren't rock people. And he goes on to describe a bunch of things that only rock people can do, like how they have gemstones embedded in their body, how they can summon weapons, how they can change their shape to appear cuter and lull you into a false sense of security. At which point, Steven shows off his gem, summons his shield, and shapeshifts his finger into a cat. My point, Ronaldo quickly realizes, oh shit, this does describe the crystal gems, and immediately apologizes to Steven before saying he's got some things to think about before running off with the rest of his pamphlets. As a result of this, Ronaldo once again goes into retirement, saying he needs to go and reconsider things, and once the gems hear this, even they're like, oh, maybe it's for the best that he goes off and does this. Then he posts another video almost immediately, which actually leads to a very funny reaction, or even Pearl's like, But yeah, basically it's Ronaldo apologizing for the misinformation he's been spreading, but that in order to correct it, he's going to take a step forward and do something that's selfless. He's going to join the Crystal Gems, which, yeah, the gems themselves are a little shocked by, especially when immediately after watching the video, Ronaldo comes through the door and he doesn't even get a chance to say it. Steven, he just says, I've got some news for you guys, and Steven's like, yeah, you want to join the Crystal Gems? Like, I thought you'd never ask. At which point, while the gems themselves are not exactly on board with having Ronaldo be a part of their group, Steven does kind of talk them into at least giving Ronaldo a chance because, hey, aren't they about acceptance and love and tolerance? So maybe they could at least give him a shot. And so as such, Steven does manage to sway over the gems, and they do decide to let Ronaldo stay with them. As such, Ronaldo's all excited to be all part of this, and even picking out his code name to be Bloodstone because he says that his gem is like in his blood, and he's more than excited to get ready for a mission, and to fully induct him into the team. Steven tapes a star to his shirt. However, unfortunately, there's one problem. This ain't the Ronaldo show. As Ronaldo starts acclimating himself to the gym's home because he refuses to leave, well, he soon finds that not everything here is about him, as the gems are getting ready to go off on a mission, but they don't want Ronaldo coming because he's inexperienced. When Steven and co get back, Ronaldo starts complaining about how, oh, you didn't need me, I understand, I would have probably gotten in the way, but does in like a condescending tone. When Steven tries to lie down for a nap, or tries to go to sleep for the night, Ronaldo is being disruptive as he practices fighting. So it's like, oh, it's funny. I thought gems didn't need to sleep. Why are you sleeping? And basically at one point when Connie is leaving after a training session, Ronaldo's like, oh, I see she has a sword. She totally copied my thing because Ronaldo brought a toy katana with him. It's like, so why do you trust her and all that crap? And basically, little by little, Steven is just getting more and more annoyed with Ronaldo to the point where he is starting to show visible signs of irritation. Like when he tried going to sleep and Ronaldo kept disrupting him, his eye twitched, and then likewise when Ronaldo complained about Connie being given more special privileges versus him, even citing that Connie only got in because she's Steven's girlfriend. Steven finally just snaps at Ronaldo and says, what do you know? This is my whole life. You're treating this as if it's just a game to you. For us, this is everything. This is everything. I'm actually a gem. You're just a guy with a blog, which, yeah, it's hurtful, and even Steven later admits he shouldn't have said those things, but basically Ronaldo, in the face of this, is like, oh, I see, you preach love and tolerance, but you don't tolerate me. That doesn't sound very gem-like. Maybe you should go off and think about things for a while. And Steven does go off to think about it, or maybe half a minute before he realizes, wait, no, I'm not the problem here. At which point he comes home, while Ronaldo pretends to have had just a funny little conversation with Amethyst, who admits that she said nothing, Steven finally does confront Ronaldo, and does tell him that he's been essentially a royal pain. That, he apologizes for snapping at him the way he did, but ultimately, he hasn't been doing anything contributive the whole time he's been here. The instant that, yes, Steven gave him a chance and opened his home to him, but the entire time that Ronaldo has been here, he was annoyed when everything wasn't about him. This isn't just a game. This is genuinely serious, and Ronaldo can't just make this whole thing about him. And if this is what he's gonna do, then maybe he shouldn't be here. At which point, and throughout this whole thing, you see Ronaldo just actually starting to realize that, but once Steven finishes his speech, Ronaldo passes out. Yeah, going back to the whole how he complained that Steven was taking a nap, Ronaldo apparently in the entire time that he was staying with the Crystal Gems, never took a nap. He stayed awake for a whole week. 1 second. Sorry, Chindi came in while I was talking, so I had to close the door. But yeah, basically Ronaldo spent an entire week without sleep, and it finally caught up with him and he passed out. As such, the Gems decide to just kind of drop him out back at his house, and while Steven is worried that Ronaldo might not be okay if he wakes up, even the Gems say, Steven, we think you've worried about him enough, before they all just go off to do their own thing. As such, the episode cuts ahead to 3 weeks later, based on what Steven says, and Steven does eventually run into Ronaldo, who is right back to the way he was, acting all high and mighty and lonely and tortured, basically the same bullcrap he was pulling before. And Steven asks him how he was doing, and Ronaldo does admit that he did take some time to reflect after they dropped him out back at his house, and he does admit that he was wrong, that Steven opened his home to him, and yet ultimately he just kind of, it's just Ronaldo kind of effed it up. Although, rather than use this mode of introspection to improve himself, he instead decides to take this as a different opportunity, for his exact language was, even among outsiders, I was an outsider, so I've decided I'm just gonna work alone. Now, you can interpret that as, well, maybe he realizes he's too difficult to work with and wants to continue working on himself. I interpret that as Ronaldo realized that he was a jerk, but rather than using that as an attempt to improve himself, he decides, you know what, I'm better off by myself. I think I'm good solo. Which, you know what, maybe he is right. Maybe Ronaldo is good solo, because quite frankly, if this is as egotistical as he is with it, if this is how egotistical he is when he's with the team, I hate to see I think it's better off that he be alone. But, at the very least, Ronaldo does admit that you can see that Ronaldo does try a little bit to try and contribute to the Crystal Gems and their cause. As it turns out, he reprinted the pamphlets that he did, only this time it's about how the humans can help and support the Crystal Gems. Which, you know what? I'll give him credit. Good on him. He didn't have to do that, but he did anyway. And quite frankly, really the heart. You can kind of tell that the heart's in it. So it's a good. I say that. I'll give him that. That actually is productive and actually something good and helpful. Although by the end of the episode, Ronaldo telling this to Steven, he asks, "Hey Steven, why don't you use your gem name?" And Steven explains that his gem name is his mom's name, and the only time that gems ever call him that is when they want to kidnap him or beat him up. And he says, "Oh, you want me to put that in the next Ronaldo flit?" And Steven's like, "No, thanks." And Ronaldo's like, "Okay, cool." And that's where the episode ends. So, okay, yeah. It's raining out. But whatever. Anyway, that's one episode out of the way. What about Tiger Philanthropist? If you can't tell by the name of the episode, this one's actually kind of a follow-up to an earlier episode, Tiger Millionaire. And like with Tiger Millionaire, we tune back in with Steven and Amethyst as they are in their wrestler personas, i.e. Purple Puma and the aforementioned Tiger Millionaire, as they're still taking part in underground tag team wrestling matches, and they're still doing a damn good job. They actually work well together. The title they've earned has pretty much been like, they've had challengers, but they've always been able to defend their title for the most part, and it's essentially they just kept doing their own thing. I assume that they were doing it off screen, and it's clearly they've done it enough that they built in a bit of a rapport with it, and it's clearly Steven's having a fun time just doing this with Amethyst. Only problem is Amethyst is bored. Yeah, basically after Amethyst went to the human zoo and encountered all the other Amethysts there, and they were all happy to see her and welcomed her with open arms, it kind of helped Amethyst's psychological state quite a bit. After all, part of the reason why Amethyst was doing the whole Purple Puma thing wasn't because she just wanted to beat people up. it was to kind of help her own self-image, so to speak. She, after all, as we've established, one of Amethyst's biggest character flaws is her self-loathing and how much she hates herself because she felt that she was unwanted, unloved, a mistake, and now but now she's learned that there were people who were actually looking forward to meeting her and had waited for her to come out, and that while she may not see them anymore, she knows that out there are people out there who can love and who care about her. And before you say, well, the crystal gems do that, again, internal voices. So at the very least, it's nice for her to learn that the people that she was supposed to be family with still consider her family and would happily want to see her again. So that does end up improving her mood quite a bit, and well, wrestling just doesn't do it for her anymore. So after she and Steven end up winning another match, she ends up taking the mic from Mr. Smiley, who announces their great victory and says that she's over all this, so she's done. So she just drops the title on the ground and then walks out. And while Steven, well, is a little disappointed with this and even apologizes to the audience about this, even picking up the title again and carrying out with them, well, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, their career is over, and Steven really doesn't know what to do. Because, well, Amethyst didn't discuss this with him. She just dropped it on his lap. And, well, while Amethyst is just like, oh, good, I got my Saturday evenings back, well, Steven doesn't really know what to do. Amethyst tries telling him to blow it off, like saying, oh, come on, we don't need that anymore. Come on, let's go get something to eat or something. Steven just is kind of feels empty. He doesn't know where to go from here. And sure enough, it turns out that Steven's not the only one emotionally affected by this, as the next day when Steven goes to the Big Donut for a donut, Lars is apparently affected. Because after all, as we established, Lars was a fan of Tiger Millionaire. And now he's a little disappointed that Tiger Millionaire has now retired from the world of wrestling. So he's just kind of sad and in the dumps. Although Sadie being Sadie, she still knows that Tiger Millionaire is Steven, and she's just bamboozled, and it just constantly stumps her why Lars doesn't see it. But pretty much Steven's like, well, maybe Purple Puma wanted to put an end to it, and Tiger Millionaire is just going along with it. And Lars like, well, just because Purple Puma quit doesn't mean that Tiger Millionaire has to quit. He could come back for his fans. He owes it to the fans. And Steven actually takes that to heart and decides to take Lars' advice. And so during the next Underground Wrestling match, Steven does come back and he does revive the Tiger Millionaire persona. Only this time he renames him the Tiger Philanthropist, stating that Tiger Millionaire did step away for a while, but he grew lonely and realized he didn't need his money anymore. So now he's giving it away as a philanthropist. And so he renews his wrestling identity anew, and even starts kicking the ass of some more challengers for his it feels a little strange for him to do it without Amethyst there, but he still puts up a good fight. But there's one person who isn't satisfied. Lars, who when Steven goes to talk to him the next day, Lars isn't as down in the dumps as he was before, but he's disappointed. Especially for him, he doesn't like how everything changes. That he doesn't like that Tiger Millionaire changed his whole shtick to a philanthropist. They're just giving money away, and the matches are still the same. He still wins every time, so it just kind of feels boring. So basically, for him, there's nothing to grab him anymore. He initially was attracted to Tiger because of the whole millionaire angle and arrogant attitude, but now that that's gone, he's just kind of bored with him, and he's like, and in his own words, he considers it the sequel no one asked for. And as such, Steven just was like, well, what do you want? What do you need? What do you want to do? And RONALDO's like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm a complex teenager. Now get out of here, and stop being so concerned by happiness and well-being. It's actually a funny line. I don't do it justice. But Steven just doesn't really know what to do. And he does end up talking with Amethyst about this. And again, and this is where Amethyst does talk about how she did the wrestling thing because she felt like because she needed it, but then after she met the other Amethyst, she feels better and she doesn't think she needs it anymore. And so Steven's just like, well, maybe I should just turn it in. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because starts talking about how he wasn't doing it for any self-worth or whatever. It was just his and Amethyst thing, and he liked doing it because he liked doing something with her. But if she doesn't want to do it anymore, then maybe he should just throw in the towel too, because he doesn't really know what he's doing it for anymore. He said he went back to wrestling for Lars, but Lars isn't happy, so why bother anymore? As such, Steven says that he's just going to throw in the towel, and Amethyst sees this, and after hearing what Steven says about how he liked doing it with her, she clearly starts thinking a little. As such, during the next wrestling match, Steven admits to the crowd that he's throwing in the towel and that he's just giving up. He has the champion belt hanging on a wire, and basically, whichever wrestlers want it, they can have it. As such, while the local crowd boos this and as this lamentation as he's essentially just giving up without a fight, more wrestlers do come in and they all want to have a claim on the titles. But before any match can actually begin, Amethyst shows up as Purple Puma, who immediately tells Steven to knock it the hell off. That, yeah, he can give up wrestling, but those titles aren't his to give away. As such, she ends up jumping into the ring and says, yeah, you can throw away wrestling, but I'm not going to let you throw away our memories. At which point, she ends up picking Steven up and pulls him in for a hug. It's genuinely sweet. And as such with them so close, they're able to actually have a conversation in private, and Amethyst apologizes for just having done all this without having talked to him, as she realized it wasn't just her thing anymore, it was their thing, and she just threw it away. But Steven also says, yeah, but we don't need this anymore. We can move on. We can move on. We have other things. At which point Amethyst does smile. It's like, so how do you want to end this? And Steven says, with a bang. And so sure enough, they do give the titles away, but they don't go down without a fight, as they do end up wrestling with the other wrestlers, but, well, they're clearly not putting any effort in. They're just letting the other wrestlers wail on them one by one, and throughout the whole thing, Lars is even like, no, wait, no, this is not fair, you have to stop the match, they're gonna get creamed, at which point security has to escort Ronaldo out, and the whole time he's just screaming, no, they can't give up now, it was just getting good. It's actually really funny. But either way, yeah, Amethyst and Steven get creamed, and ultimately these handsome twins or whatever take the title, but Steven and Amethyst are happy because they at least could go out with a bang, and at least they did it together. So, that's some nice stuff, so. Okay, so what are my thoughts on these episodes? Well, short and to the point, I don't care for Rocknaldo. Yeah, big shocker, right? But yeah, as always, the biggest flaw with this episode is, unfortunately, Ronaldo. This episode does not do anything to really ingratiate him to me. Well, okay, I take that back. The end of the episode still has something to ingratiate him to me. He clearly learned at least a little bit about... Okay, maybe he didn't learn a thing, but the end of the episode does showcase that beneath Ronaldo's ego and sense of entitlement, there is someone under there who is trying to make a difference, a legitimately good difference. And if I can give credit where it's due, in the episode, when Ronaldo's faults are pointed out to him and the flaws in his logic are shown, he does try and find ways to adapt around it. When he's told that his pamphlets at the beginning of the episode actually are spreading misinformation about the gems and is more harmful to them than helpful, he realizes he shouldn't be passing them out and stops doing it. Unfortunately, this also leads to him joining the Crystal Gems, so that's a bad thing. But then likewise, when Steven called Ronaldo out on his entitlement there as well, it did cause Ronaldo to kind of step back and realize maybe I can help in another way and start handing out the pamphlets that actually encourage people to work with the Crystal Gems and what they need to know about them. Again, it's helpful. Though again, that comes with a double-edged sword of Ronaldo still thinking, well, maybe I just need to work alone instead of actually trying to improve himself. It's annoying, to say the least. There are clearly nuggets of a good person in there, but like Sissy and Ko Lyoko, those little nuggets of goodness are buried buried inside this annoying little package, and quite frankly, he still really doesn't do a lot to ingratiate himself in the episode. Throughout the whole thing, he is fucking annoying. He's entitled. He's arrogant. He's all me. And to be fair to the episode, it looks like that was exactly what they were going for, because the characters in the episode get just as annoyed with Ronaldo as the audience does. When Pearl hears that he's posted a new video after he said he was going to be taking a break, the look of annoyance kind of mirrors my own in that regard. And likewise, throughout the episode, as Ronaldo keeps getting on Steven's case about how, oh, I see you're doing this, and he tries lecturing Steven on how to be a proper Crystal Gem, you can see Steven's patience getting shorter and shorter and shorter until he finally does blow up on the guy for justifiable reasons. And while Steven does apologize for the blow up, he still ultimately tells Ronaldo, you are in the wrong here. I let you into the team, I vouched for you, and what do you do with that kindness and tolerance? You throw it back in my face. face. I don't like that you've been annoying me while I've been trying to sleep. I don't like that you've been complaining because we haven't been treating you equal. I don't like that you keep getting on my case and think you know better. This is my life, not yours. It's just, again, which I like that. I like seeing that blow up. And I do admit that maybe that's probably the point of the episode, because I think the moral for Rocknaldo is this. It's okay to be kind and caring and considerate, but some people really are not worth it. And we see that with Ronaldo in this episode. Steven was not wrong for vouching for Ronaldo in the episode. If Ronaldo genuinely wanted to do good and put effort into the Crystal Gems mission of protecting the Earth and its people, that is not a bad thing. Hell, there is a precedent for having humans be members of the Crystal Gems, i.e. Connie. Connie is a full-blooded human. She's not half gem or anything, and the only relation she has to them is that she's friends with Steven, and they clearly like each other, and they're growing closer. But she has actually put time and effort into being a member of the Gems. She is trained, she's fought, she's been in missions, she's helped the group. She has contributed in her own way. But even then, that took time. Especially with, and even going back with Steven, he took time. Legit, when he joined the Crystal Gems, he was the junior member. The rest of the Crystal Gems were all fully capable on his own, but little by little, he had to be worked in. In the first couple episodes, he was just on standby and had to help, and the only way he could help the team was through improvising. And even on the missions that we did see him join, he was just kind of wandering around doing his own thing. But likewise, he did offer a human perspective to everything, and you could see the potential for the gem he would eventually become, as he did see things that the Gems couldn't see or considered angles they never thought about. And likewise, because of his level of improvisation, it showcased how he could improve, that there was potential there, it just needed to be expanded on. And we saw that potential be expanded on as the series went along, as Steven gained more experience, as Steven went on more missions, as Steven trained. We've seen that grow, but he started small. And going back to Connie, similar case. She had the potential. She wanted to grow. She wanted to learn. So she trained. She fought. She took the steps necessary to be a member of the Crystal Gems. But then you got Ronaldo, and like Steven pointed out, the instant that everything wasn't about him, he lost interest and started complaining. And we saw that throughout the episode. He constantly wanted to act like he was still the big chosen hero, that the Crystal Gems should be honored to have him on the team. They should be treating him like he's a full-fledged member already. But the problem is, if Ronaldo genuinely meant what he said about wanting to be a member of the Crystal Gems and actually do good, then he would take the time to actually do good. But he doesn't. Like I said, or like Steven said, he just complained. He wanted to be treated like a full-fledged member when ultimately he was doing jack shit to earn it. And by the end of the episode, when Steven finally calls him out on it, well, it's justified. And when Steven's still worried about Ronaldo after they drop him back at his house, the Gems statement, I think, rings true. You've worried about him enough. And that's ultimately the case. Steven was trying to be accepting of Ronaldo. He was trying to be accepting. Steven genuinely put his best foot forward, but ultimately, some people are not worth it. Some people are toxic. You will give them an inch and they will take a mile. There are people, and honestly, I think that might be a lesson that some kids do need to learn. The difference here is at least Ronaldo shows signs that there is a good person in there. That he may not change a lot when he's called out, but there is still nuggets in there that show he does want to improve. A little bit, and ultimately he's still an annoying bastard no matter how you look at it. But there is still something in there that shows he wants to contribute, at least in some way. Like when he pulled back the Rock People pamphlet, and then ultimately printed the pamphlets about working with the Crystal Gems to try and distribute. I doubt a lot of people would read them, but the effort is in there, and I do like that. So I'll give credit where it's due. There is still a nugget of a good person in Ronaldo. But that's all it is, a nugget. He's still annoying and still aggravating, and ultimately, I think that he did a good job of that in this episode, too good a job of that in this episode too, because the thing is, the moral hits very close to home. There are people in the world who will do stuff like Ronaldo does, who will take advantage of kindness just because they can, and that ultimately they're just not worth the time. People like that, sadly, are people that I do believe need to be cut out. I've seen it happen online. I've seen it happen with my friends online. Hell, a few years ago, even I dealt with an individual like that. I'm not going to name any names, but put simply, I dealt with this person for a few months before I realized I'm better off without him and had to cut him out. Yes, I felt guilty about it for a little while, but nowadays, whenever I think back to him, I just think, you know what, good riddance. And that's kind of what needs to be learned sometimes. And I think that the episode at least showcases that enough. That, yeah, it's not a bad thing to be kind and try and accepting. But ultimately, some people are not worth it. You can give them as many chances as you want, but ultimately, they just won't. But ultimately, all they are is going to be an annoyance and a thorn in your side. They'll just keep asking for more, and eventually, you just gotta tell them enough. And I think at least the episode does well in that. I do believe the episode does well in getting that moral across. I think that, and who better to display that moral than with Ronaldo, the entitled asshole who thinks everything should be about him. So, in that regard, again, sorry, it's raining, so you might hear thunder. In that regard, Rocknaldo succeeds in what it probably was setting out to do. The moral is implemented well with having Ronaldo be his typical annoying, entitled self. The problem is, in order to get to that moral, you had to deal with a lot of Ronaldo to get there. By the end, it really doesn't feel like he's learned anything, especially when his ultimate how he comes out of this is by saying, you know what, maybe amongst the weirdos, I'm too weird. I'll just be alone. Instead of, thinking maybe I'm the problem here. It just feels dumb and I don't like it. So I guess on a technical level, the episode set out what it wanted to do, but personally, I still find it to be annoying. Not technically bad. It does seem to be again, I do kind of get what they were trying to get, and they do succeed somewhat. It's just, again, you gotta deal with quite a bit of Ronaldo being Ronaldo in order to get to that outcome. So take what you can get. So there you go. But as for Tiger Philanthropist, this one I think is also a good character episode, and I think is a nice way of showcasing how far Amethyst has come, while also showcasing how far her relationship with Steven has been. What I like about the episode is that it takes what was set up all the way back in season 1, i.e., Amethyst's career as the Purple Puma and how Steven wanted to join that as Tiger Millionaire, and just kind of brings it full circle. As we established back in the Tiger Millionaire episode, Amethyst only set up the Purple Puma persona because, well, she needed an outlet. She needed something to help her make her feel good about herself, because even among the crystal gems, she felt like an outcast. She felt unwanted, unloved. And I mentioned when I first talked about that episode, how that was the start of what was supposed to be Amethyst's character arc, about how she had image and self-loathing issues, how she felt unwanted among the gems, and how she felt lesser, felt like a loser, and this was her way of taking out that anger and trying to actually make herself feel worthwhile, because she actually had abilities that could make her something good, that could actually make her stand out in the ring. But likewise, we've seen Amethyst develop from there. We've seen Amethyst confront these emotions. We've seen her deal with them in different ways. We've seen her deal with her self-confidence issue. We've seen her grow closer to the gems. We've seen that self-loathing help her grow closer to Steven. And then likewise, in the zoo episode, what finally helped kind of clench it for her was that she met people who genuinely were happy to see her. They didn't treat her like the enemy, or tell her or repeat what Jasper told Amethyst, that she was wrong. No, they looked at this runt of an Amethyst and thought, "Oh my God, welcome to the family." That's what they did. They welcomed her in. They treated her like family, and even helped her. They made her feel welcome. They made her feel loved, and as a result of that, it helped improve Amethyst's mood a lot, to the point where she didn't need the wrestling anymore, which I think is a really good show of how far her character has come. Now, this thing that she originally used as a crutch to make herself feel better, she no longer needs. She can put it aside, and so that's why she ends the wrestling. What ultimately hurts in the end is that Steven wasn't doing all this because it was a crutch for him. For him, It was just something he loved to do with someone he cared about, i.e. Amethyst. He loved hanging out with her. He loved doing all these special things with her. To him, this wasn't a stress relief. It was spending time with Amethyst. Now the thing is, Steven understood from the get-go that this was most likely that this was Amethyst's thing, and part of the plot with Tiger Millionaire was how Amethyst kind of had to realize that Steven genuinely had her back, and how she did feel better, and kind of helped contribute to them growing closer as she realized that she at least had Steven in his ring, which helped contribute to events later in later episodes as she continued trying to support Steven. Which led to them clashing and stuff like with the episodes and like with Steven versus Amethyst, where they were both trying to compete over who was the worst gem, which ultimately kind of came to a head in the Earthlings episode when Steven assured Amethyst that he understood her and that they needed to stick together. They were stronger together, and what led them to eventually forming Smoky Quartz. That little connection. Amethyst, again, there is the foundation. Again, for Steven, this wasn't just about stress relief. It was about just spending time with someone he cared about. And likewise, when Amethyst just up and quits, Steven genuinely feels left out. He feels like for him, a bomb was just dropped on him. It's like if you were taking a bus to work. It's like if you were taking a bus to work, but then just as the bus was about to arrive, someone called and said, "Oh yeah, by the way, your ticket's canceled." That's kind of how it is sometimes. Or let's say you wanted to set up a hangout with a friend or something, and then just before they're supposed to arrive, you get a call saying, "Yeah, I'm not coming." It hurts. And we see Steven trying to register it. He's clearly trying to be understanding of Amethyst throughout the episode and trying to be supportive, but there's clearly a longing there. And part of him wishes that, and even when he does come back as Tiger Philanthropist, you can tell he'd rather be doing this with Amethyst. He tries using Lars as an excuse to still be a wrestler, but when Lars isn't even going for what he's doing, eventually Steven starts wondering, well, why am I doing this anymore? And like Amethyst, he's ready to throw it away. But then again we get some more development but then we see more of the development on Amethyst's side with her and Steven's relationship, because Amethyst finally realizes this isn't about me anymore. This wasn't about me anymore. This is about me and Steven. I started this whole thing because I want to make it feel better, but I did it all with him, and I just threw it away. I like that she quickly realizes that. When she realizes that Steven wants to just throw it away wants to throw it away, and that for him, this wasn't just stress relief. It was just about spending time with someone he cared about. And as a result of that, Amethyst rightfully decides, well, if Steven wants to end it, I'm not going to let him do it alone. I want to do this with him. This meant a lot to him. And it did mean a lot to me. Because, Amethyst was happy to do it with Steven. She does clearly care about Steven enough to be a part of it. Even she's like, when this is all over, it's like, come on, we don't need it anymore, right? But what she never stopped to consider was that he wasn't doing it for his own sake. He was doing it just because he liked spending time with Amethyst. And when Amethyst realized, oh, I threw it away, and now he feels like he has to throw it away, she immediately kind of turns around and says, well, if you want to just throw it all away, if you want to throw it away, well, I'm not going to let you. You want to end this? Well, we're going to end it together. I love that. I like that. It's nice. It showcases how far they've come, and I do like that both of them have that nice little sweet intimate moment, and they both do it while in their wrestling personas and doing voices. Like when Amethyst kicks down the door to the arena, she's like, it's like, you can throw those away, but they meant a lot to me. You can throw away the belts, but you can't throw away the memories. Or pulling Steven into a sweet, madly hug. It's the sweetest thing, and I love it. It's so nice. But overall, it's a nice character episode. Has some really touching moments. Has some good character stuff in it, and definitely has a lot of laughs, especially in the case of Lars, and how he kind of is a good representation of the never satisfied fans. Although by the end, he's kind of in the right mindset for when ending things. Always leave wanting more, as they say in showbiz. And well, I think Steven had provided, as by the end, Lars was begging for more, despite the fact that there was never going to be any more. So overall, nice. I like it. So on the whole, Rocknaldo, I think, is a dumb episode that while story wise and technically is not a bad episode as it did do what it was set out to do, and I think does have a strong moral. In order to achieve that moral, he had to deal with a lot of Ronaldo, and let's be honest, he is still not a good character, and I don't like him. I wish to punch him several times. So take what you can get. Technically not bad. Did exactly what it set out to achieve, but still annoying. And then likewise, Tiger Philanthropist, I think, is a very good character driven episode with some good character stuff, some great interactions, some nice growth with the relationship with Steven and Amethyst. Has some nice touching moments, while also having some funny stuff, and also getting in a few good laughs with Lars and his reaction to Tiger Millionaire and Tiger Philanthropist. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll hopefully see you next week. Take care.